Hi, this is Rob Buddy again with JVC, and I just want to go through the JVC calibration of a standard SDR calibration. So this is a basic baseline of the projector. So this is for the customer who kind of wants to fine tune it and just get a little better gamma and tracking out of the projector. The projectors come out of the box already calibrated for Rec 709, HDR, and those are all automatic. So the customer doesn't have to pick one of those. It automatically come up to the right profile. So it's plug and play out of the box. But this is for the customer who wants to kind of fine tune it, wants to get the gray levels a little better, the color a little better. This procedure that I'm going to go through will show you exactly how to do that step by step. We'll go through each of all the gear you will need. It's not a lot. We provide the software for free. So as a customer, the only thing you would have to buy is the Spyder sensor, and we'll go through all that. But just want to give you an intro to it, and then we'll move on here to the next slide. So as I was discussing, we'll go through the guidelines of how to set up for the calibration. And so we'll go through of all the gear you will need, how to set up your network connection and talk to the projector, how to set up the Spyder Express sensor, and then how to run the calibration software. We'll also analyze the results afterwards so you can see the before and after, and then we'll optimize the settings for optimal viewing for SDR and the whole projector. Just one note, this procedure is based on the NZ900 model. So if you have maybe an NZ500 or 700, it might be a little different for that. You do need a completely dark room to do this procedure. So make sure the room can be turned out completely dark as you're doing this. If you're doing a very large image, suggest you zoom the image down to a smaller size to do the calibration. And then once you're done, you can bring the size back out. One other note, we will not be using the reference meter emulation function in this procedure. That's more of advanced for a calibrator type person who has a reference meter. Most customers don't have a reference meter, but for the higher end dealer calibrator, they typically have a reference meter. So it allows them to use that to get a better calibration with that meter as well. The necessary tools and software, if you go to Data Color, is the Spyder website, and from there you can download the latest drivers for the Spyder Express. We need to provide a source, so we need a UHD player. So you need some sort of UHD player. It could be a Panasonic, a Sony. I'm even using the PS5 as a player. The Spears and Munson calibration disc, you can buy just by searching Google. You'll find out there's a couple different websites you can buy it. If you go to biaslighting.com, you can purchase that disc. That disc is important to set the brightness and contrast levels. So as we're doing that, this disc is important. We'll put in the UHD player, and we'll show you how to set those brightness and contrast patterns. You are going to need a PC laptop. This procedure is based on Windows 11, so you know that. We do not support Macs or Windows emulator. For the Mac fans out there, I apologize, but we don't support that. You're going to need a tripod to mount the Spyder Express sensor on, which will be pointed at the screen. You'll need some extension cables, just if you're a little further away from your Spyder or the projectors. So the Spears and Munson disc you can purchase. They're around $60. The Data Color Spyder Express is around $179. You can search on Amazon and Google and find these products. All the links will be in the procedure, so you don't have to look them up if you don't want to. The first thing we want to do is update the firmware. As we showed you before, if you go to the jvc.com USA/projectors, you can download the latest firmware for your projector and the latest calibration software. So as in the procedure, there's links here. They'll take you directly to that. Um, the firmware is actually loaded onto just a USB stick. You don't want anything too large. FAT32 formatted, about 1 meg is fine. So if you can find some older disk, it'll work better that way. So the first thing you want to do is factory reset of the projector. This will allow you to get everything restored the way it was when it left the factory. So if you did some sort of calibration or some settings or something, that we're going to reset all those. So if you want to write those down, or you can actually back them up um, in the OSD if you like. To get into the service menu to do a factory reset, you're going to hit OK, left, right, OK, back, OK. And from that point, you'll get into a hidden service menu, and then you can go down to factory reset, hit factory reset, and it'll restore everything back to the way it was when we shipped it to you. So first we have to kind of set up the projector to get the right mode. We don't want auto modes turning on for us, so we want to set kind of the base profile of the projector. So if we go to picture settings, select content type as SDR, picture mode is natural, color profile to BT709, and gamma to 2.4. This will get everything profiled to where we need to be so that we can set up the projector correctly. So also, if you go to more settings, we want to turn the LD power up to 100%, dynamic control to off, aperture to 0. We'll use the contrast and brightness as we adjust the Spears and Munsell test patterns. So also we want to disable the filmmaker mode. We don't want it automatically turning on as we're doing the procedure. So just disable that in the input menu. So first we need to set the brightness and contrast. So just put in the Spears and Munsell disk, go to SDR patterns. If you go to Rec 709 and go to video setup, you'll see the basic patterns. And then from brightness pattern and contrast, so we'll go to contrast first here. And as you bring up the contrast pattern, you'll see basically some white bars. And so as you adjust the contrast up or down, you want to be able to see those bars from 940 below. So it's only like the right portion. Don't worry that you can't see all the bars. You're not supposed to. It's just the video level for video is 940. So that's what we want to see in this particular pattern. So if you go to the brightness pattern, it's going to show you a pattern with basically 2 bars. And if you bring the brightness up, you can see there's a checkerboard in the background. And as you bring the brightness back down, you want that checkerboard pattern to be indistinguished. So that's setting up the projector. You do have to set up your network configuration. And so for the network configuration, we're actually going to connect the projector directly to the Ethernet port on the back of the projector, directly into your laptop. You can do this over Wi-Fi router if you want, or you can connect the projector to your local network. But for this procedure, we're going to show you how to connect directly to the projector. So you want to go into the network configuration. You're going to turn your DHCP client off. Select your IP address of 192.168.0.2. Go ahead and write this down so you have that, because you'll need this for when we get into the calibration software. Subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. And your default gateway is 192.168.0.254. Control 4 SDDP is off. Just make your hit set when you make any changes to the network. And we do need to set the network password. So on the network password menu, if you go in there, you're going to type in basically 8 to 10 characters. To make it simple, we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will allow you to just be easy to remember. Again, you're going to need this for the calibration software. It's password protected. So again, hit OK. And then anytime you make any network changes, hit set in the previous menu. In Windows 11, we need to configure your laptop for direct connection. So you're going to connect your Ether cable from the laptop to the projector. Select network and internet on the bottom right corner typically. Select the Ethernet tab. and select IP assignment. And then from there, you're going to go to edit and select manual, turn on IPv version 4, and enter the following address. So you're going to 192.168.0.1. So we want this IP address to be basically different than the projector's IP address so they talk correctly. So we just 192.168.0.1. As long as they're within the same subnet mask, you shouldn't have any issues, but we'll just make it simple and put it 0.1 for this. Again, put in the subnet mask, your gateway is going to be the same. DNS doesn't really matter too much, just put 111 for default purposes. So your final configuration should look something like this on your laptop. So the next thing we're going to do is set up the Spyder alignment to the screen. If you want to throw up, there's test patterns you can throw up from the service menu if you want to use one of those. But basically, you're going to line the projector up or the Spyder up so it points to the center of the screen. And so you're going to put that on a tripod and have a USB extender so it reaches your laptop and plug that in. The front little cover comes off, and that big eye basically needs to cover or point at the screen. So if you see the data color Spyder logo and just a little kind of red dot on the back, that's fine. But the big eye needs to point at the screen because we're going to actually take the light that's reflected off the screen, and then that's what we're going to actually measure. So once you bring up the projector and calibration software, once you've loaded and installed it on your PC, the first thing we're going to do is go to settings. So again, we're going to type in the IP address of the projector here. So 192.168.0.2. Port number is 20554, which is default. We're going to do a calibration type of a quality. So we want to do the highest quality calibration, not a faster one or anything like that. The calibration mode, we're going to do a standard mode, not the calibrator mode. And then you're going to type in the password we put into the network configuration. So we typed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to hit check here. And that means when it says connect OK, that means you actually have a good connection from your laptop to the projector. If it says NG, typically your network's not set up correctly or your password doesn't match the projector. So you have to go back and recheck those configurations and make sure that you have the right password inputted and that you're connected correctly. One note, as you're doing the calibration, if you mess it up, the projector or the laptop automatically backs up the projector data. And so it's loaded onto your PC. So if you look at the backup path on the calibration side here, you'll see where that path is located. And then once you get done, if you screw it up for whatever reason and you don't like it, you can go back to this page and hit import. And from that import page, you can actually load the file that you might have that's backed up automatically when you finish the calibration. You can type in the serial number of the projector for reference. So that way, all that data is saved in the file name. It'll give you the date, time, and the initial file is the original file on the projector. So once you've done that and your connection says OK, you can hit OK. It's going to take you back to the main calibration software. The next step you're going to do is basically disable the reference meter emulation. We're not doing that as part of this calibration. So if you go to meter, you're going to select the Spyder. You should have the Spyder Express connected to your laptop. And it says, click the measure button to set your Spyder measurements. We're going to turn that off and then hit the back button. That'll take you back to the main menu. And you'll see some lights flash up on the screen. It's just going to show it provides its own internal test patterns, so you don't have to provide any sort of test patterns as you do in the calibration. So we're going to go to calibration here. So you just have the Spyder sensors, only one supported under this software version. One note to let you know, there's different software versions depending on which model, which firmware you have. So that's why you always want to update to the latest firmware and then select the latest calibration software for your particular model. So we're going to select the Spyder sensor here, which is only one available. So as you bring up the calibration software and you've gone past the Spyder, you'll see a white field up on the screen. On your laptop, you'll see kind of a GUI interface with basically a screen, which is a white vertical line, and then kind of an orange box. That orange box really determines the sensitivity of the meter. So we want to kind of censor that orange box on the screen. It doesn't have to be exact. It just needs to kind of be on the screen. So if you change the angle of the sensor or you move it forward or back, you can change where that box is going to be located onto the screen. But as you can see by the demonstration here, the orange box is on the screen, so we should be fine. And it's not exact, it doesn't have to be exact. As long as it just allows us to get better sensitivity. Also if your screen is too big or too small, maybe changing your screen size will help in this particular screen. So once that's set, you're going to hit set here. So it's going to come up with the picture mode settings. It's going to load the kind of the default levels that we've already put into it. So we have SDR, user one, BT709, 6500 Kelvin, 2.4 gamma. All our auto modes are kind of turned off. The reference filter we've turned off in this particular application. The reference filter is a color filter. So if you wanted to do more of a wider color gamut, then the reference filter would be turned on to give you a wider color gamut. For this particular basic calibration, we're not going to do that. We're going to leave the color filter off and we're going to calibrate the whole machine. When we calibrate the whole machine, over when we were looking at SDR, it mathematically calibrates all the modes across the whole projector to give you better color, gamma. It doesn't matter if it's HDR or SDR. The projector automatically, mathematically calibrates all the different modes from the settings as brightness and contrast and color that we've probably previously set on it. So don't worry about that your HDR is going to be messed up if you do this. It will not be messed up. And so what you're going to do is our reference meter should be off, which shows right there. If you double click on the option on calibration results, you can select individual, so this individual profile can be adjusted. Or if you double click, you can go to reflect all. Give it a second to load. Now it's reflect all. So that means we're going to calibrate the whole machine against all the different profiles. So now you'd want to turn off all the lights and start the calibration. So once you're done with the calibration, you'll get the calibration results, and it does a before and after report for you. So you can look at the gamma, the color, and the color temp. So if we select the gamma first here, it's really kind of hard to see because this one's been calibrated a bunch of times already. But typically, if you look at the bottom here, the blue is before, the white is after, and the green is the 2.2 gamma curve, basically. It's going to be a straight line. So, the after is the white here. So we want this nice and straight, and you can see that it is from that. If you look, the green and the blue curves are kind of underneath the white, they're right on the edge. But if you see a hump, typically what I've seen in most of the units is there might be a little bit of hump, like in the middle or something that's a little off from the factory. And so with the calibration, we really kind of fine tune this gamma. If you go to color, which is the color gamut, it'll show you the profile for BT709. And again, the white is after, the spec, the Rec 709 is in pink, and then before would be a light blue. So, this unit's been calibrated a bunch of times, so there's really no differences on what we're seeing here. And then color temp, you can look, again, it shows you the white point for D65, and we're a little bit off of that. We're at 60, 68, 54. So we're off from that a little bit, and you can adjust that with the RGB gains and offsets if you need to fine tune that from this point. But it gives you a really nice baseline of the projector. So once you're done and everything looks good, you look at some images up on the screen, determine the grayscale looks good. Then you can go ahead and save, and it's going to reload all the data back into the machine, all the calibrated data, so it'll be permanently installed in the machine. Once you've done this, you can actually get back to where we started by going to the import function in the settings menu of the calibration software. So we're going to hit save here. It just takes a minute. Okay, so it has finished. Just hit OK. It'll back out to the main menu of the calibration software. But like I said, if you go to settings and go to import, and then you can select the INIT file. So you can select from different files that you might have loaded. So here's an INT, and then you would just hit open, and then that file would actually load back into the projector. So that's all you would have to do if you needed to restore the projector. Maybe you got done looking at it and the color was off or something didn't look quite right to you. You can restore the projector if you need to. So we're finally done with the calibration. If you have any final questions, you can always reach us at JVCProjectors at us.jvckenwood.com. Reach out to us anytime, whether it's sales, service. We have a full team of people to support you on the projection line. Thank you.